Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be comparing the all-new GR Corolla to the Honda Civic Type R. I'm sure this video is going to upset a lot of people because, well, you have cult followings with both of the cars at this point. But anyways, before we get into the video, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So starting under the hood of the Civic Type R, we have a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. It is good for 315 horsepower and then 310 pound-feet of torque. So you basically have like a souped-up economy car engine under the hood of the Type R, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's a fun engine. Anyways, I love like the red displaying there with the engine cover and the carbon fiber. I think it looks really cool. Now, the GR Corolla has a turbocharged 1.6-liter 3-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual. It's good for 300 horsepower and then 273 pound-feet of torque. So the Corolla is down on power compared to the Type R, and it actually weighs slightly more. They're almost the same weight, but the Corolla is a little bit chunkier, and a big part of that's probably because of the all-wheel drive system. But, you know, they're relatively comparable when it comes to power. And, you know, 3 cylinders, that's just cool. Now, popping back over to the Type R, I think the styling is just so beautiful on this new Type R. I thought the previous generation looked pretty good. It was quite busy, but this new one, they've cleaned things up. You still got cool accent pieces like the hood venting there in the center, and this boost blue definitely makes the car pop quite a bit, that is for sure. And then you've got those crazy LED lights. Obviously, those are the normal lights that come with the Civic in general, but it's still look cool. And then Honda's red badges. That's something that like just really works. Like the red badges, it's as silly as it sounds. It makes the car look that much cooler. And then everything's blacked out with all of the venting in the grille. Notice how just like open and aggressive the front end is on the Type R. And so you can definitely tell that it's a Honda Civic that means business. That's the best way to describe the front end of the Type R, and I'm a big fan of it. Now, with the GR Corolla, I'm actually also a huge fan of the front end. Now, this one doesn't have the Circuit Edition package, so it does not have the cool like hood vents in the center. This is more like a base model GR Corolla. It's a Core Edition for those of you that are wondering. So this is kind of, I guess, your more affordable version. But still, I mean, look how aggressive that front end is with the daytime running lights and then with that big open front grille. And what I'd have to say is I feel like the Civic Type R kind of is a little bit more beautiful. This looks a little bit more aggressive compared to the Civic Type R. And so it kind of just depends on, you know, which route you like more aesthetically. Do you want that aggression, or do you want something that just kind of, again, looks a little bit, I guess, prettier, a little bit sleeker? And then popping back over to the Civic Type R. So we've got Brembo brakes in just the front, and then you have McPherson front struts, and then you have multi-link in the back, and then you have a limited slip differential, and yes, it is front wheel drive. Notice we've got, again, the red badge there, and can't really see the suspension, but you guys heard what I said with that. And then you can see there with the venting on the side. And then look at the side view again. It looks really cool. Now, the hatchback design in the rear, I'm still not a huge fan of personally. It looks better in person, but still, like, I don't like Honda's new hatchback design as much. But anyways, popping over to the Corolla, big news, all-wheel drive. So you have 2 more wheels spinning compared to, well, you guys get what I mean. Power going to 2 more wheels compared to the Civic. And then you have a limited slip differential, multi-link in the back, McPherson type front suspension in the front. No Brembo brakes, just red painted brake calipers, just like the Civic Type R. But you have pretty much all the same performance stuff. It looks like Toyota just basically copy and pasted everything from the Civic Type R and threw it at the Corolla, but then also threw all-wheel drive at the Corolla, which is kind of interesting. Also, still can't see those front struts. But look at the wide body with the GR Corolla. That's another cool thing with this, is it's definitely way more aggressive compared to a standard Corolla. And it kind of makes it look interesting because it's got like that Raptor effect almost. And look at the venting with the GR badge, and you got the ground effects. Everything's kind of hidden on this one because it's black. If this was, you know, not black, then some of the extra stuff would kind of pop out a little bit more. But I mean, I think black's still a cool color, gives it a sinister look. And yeah, there's a better look at like the wide body with it. I think that was one of the coolest things that Toyota has done. And again, like, this is weird. Like, the hatchbackiness I like on the regular Corolla, but on the GR it kind of looks weird and boxy-ish. I don't know. It's interesting. Now, I love the key fob with the new Honda Civic. It definitely feels like nice and upscale. And notice you got the red Honda badge there on the back so that you know that you're driving a Type R and not just a regular CVT Civic, right? Now, big benefit with being a hatchback, tons of space. Something to note is the Civic Type R is longer than the GR Corolla, so it is a little bit more spacious throughout, and I definitely felt that as I was reviewing both of them. And, you know, that ultimately is also going to affect driving dynamics, right? The GR Corolla is going to feel smaller, sportier, whereas the Civic Type R, longer. So you're going to have a little bit more stability, a little bit more comfort because of that. But anyways, taillights, look how cool those are. And then you got the giant wing. Now, this has been pretty controversial. Some people think it just looks like tacked on. I think it works. That's just my personal opinion. I like it. I think they did a good job with it. And then you got the 3 exhaust tips in the center, which is another controversial thing, funny enough, but I think it actually looks pretty good. Now I will include exhaust tips at the end, or exhaust clips at the end of the video. I've said that in 2 different videos. That's hilarious. So you guys can hear the differences. Spoiler alert, I think the GR sounds better, but that's just me. And overall, again, the rear styling with this Civic Type R, it's pretty good. It's pretty dang good. I think the previous generation looked maybe a little bit better. And then I like how you have GR here with the Corolla. I think that's cool on the key fob, so it feels a little bit more special. And then, yeah, you got the hatchback design. And I think you guys can even see, like, even though you can't really, like, tell depth and everything on camera too well, I think you can kind of see that it's smaller with the cargo area. It at least visually looks smaller. And again, it's a smaller car, so it makes sense. So that's something to consider, I guess, if you plan on, you know, using the car as like a family car daily driver, which a lot of people do. And then I really like the taillights here on the back of the GR. And something's funny with the GR is, like, when you look at everything close up, I think it looks really cool. But then when you put it all together, it's kind of funky. And then notice with the 3 exhaust tips, they're all spread out, which I still don't know how to feel about it, honestly. I really don't. And this is what I'm talking about, is it has this weird, like, I don't know, like, it just kind of looks a little bit strange with the back end. I don't think it looks bad, it's just weird. That's the best way for me to describe that there, because it's kind of like boxy in the back end, but then rounded on the front end. I think that kind of sums it up. Boxy in the back end, boxier rather. And then popping inside of the Civic Type R. Now, the new Civic definitely has a much nicer interior compared to the previous generation, and that carries over to the Type R. So you can see that overall fit and finish is way better on the car, but then you just have, like, nicer material use. Now, still have cloth seats, and Honda's still doing this stupid thing where they make black seats in the back and then red seats in the front, but at least the carpeting's all red. I just wish that Honda would do the back seats red like the front, so then it all matched, but maybe some of you guys like that because it's got this, like, two-tone interior look. But space back there is really good. For an economy car, it's actually pretty impressive. Now, with the Corolla, it actually was way more economy car feeling than the Civic. That is something to note. And I mean, you can see with the material use and with the overall look. This is cool, though, like the wide body kit and the door panel. And then space, it's good, but it's not as good as the Civic Type R there. In the back, a little bit more cramped. But, I mean, that's the price you pay for, I guess, more exciting driving dynamics with a smaller car. But the headroom was good. And then, of course, a cup holder armrests. You can never go without those. Now, popping to the front door panel of the Civic Type R, notice it's a little bit cooler than the rear door panel. So, you know, the bottom portion pretty similar, but you got, like, the ambient lighting at the top, which looks pretty cool, which kind of spices things up. And then you guys can see there with the look in the mirror. And then the front seats are amazing. Super comfortable, and they look fantastic. I think that Honda has just nailed it in terms of, like, hot hatch seats because, like I said, amazingly comfortable. And there's the, so you guys can see the actual weight of the car. So just take the payload and then subtract the gross vehicle weight rating, and then you get the actual weight of the car, which is like 3,300 pounds. And that's with fuel and everything, before passenger, obviously. Cool 3-pedal layout. And then, yeah, that red carpeting, yet again, that red carpeting is all over. And then you can see stuff with the safety tech and then stability control with the Honda Civic Type R. And then the steering wheel is manually adjustable, which expected in this type of vehicle. Front door panel with the GR Corolla, again, you know, economy car feeling and looking. And I think that that's one thing that some buyers could potentially not like, but at the same time, like, you buy this car because of the performance, not because of the interior. Now, when it comes to the seats, Toyota nailed it. So I don't think these seats look as cool as the Civic Type R, but they're really comfortable. The bolstering's good. It's not quite as aggressive, but it's still solid. And then I love the look of the 3-pedal layout. And then you guys can see we've got practical controls here. Now, both of them have auto rev match. That's for the Toyota to turn it on and off. So if you don't want to do, you know, heel toe yourself, then it'll auto rev match for you. And then buying back to the Civic Type R, ooh, digital gauge cluster. This is where things get extra fancy, I suppose. Love the look of the steering wheel. Nice material use. And then you got the cool like Civic Type R Honda badge there in the center. And then notice it actually comes with stuff like adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. It's funny that we live in a world where hot hatches have tons of safety tech, because that's just how cars have gone. Now, I think this is really cool looking for a gauge cluster, again, for this type of vehicle. So Honda did a good job on it. And, you know, when you change into the sport mode, notice how it kind of, you know, just makes it look a little bit more red and aggressive. I think that's also pretty cool. But when you pop into the track mode, it like fully changes, and that is really cool. So I think job well done to Honda on this. I mean, I think that, you know, for the price point this is at and everything, it feels pretty special with that gauge cluster. And then popping back over to the GR Corolla, ooh, also got a cool digital gauge cluster. It's almost like they're like, hey, we got to make sure we compete with Honda and everything. Now, I think the steering wheel looks pretty cool. You got the GR logo on it. It's weird. It's just like everything Honda just does slightly better with the aesthetic touches on the cars. But notice you have practical stuff like cruise control and everything, just like the Civic Type R. It's like, yeah, people will use it because people daily drive these, but it's still funny. And then you got your regular stocks there on the back. And with this digital gauge cluster, I think Toyota did a really good job. By the way, this is just an accessory mode. That's why there's like check engine light and all that kind of stuff on. The car was in a closed room, and so I didn't want to keep it running forever because, well, I want to live, right? It's a pretty small room. But anyways, it's cool, all the different info you can see on the car, like the boost information, everything. I think that, again, that kind of goes with the overall ethos of the car. So I think Toyota did a great job with that. And then with the different drive modes you guys can see here with the car, I mean, they got drive mode for everything, just like the Civic Type R, and even a custom mode so that you can basically, you know, again, customize it to whatever you want from a driving perspective, which is something that I really like, because like always with performance cars, I always want like softer suspension, and then you want all the engine and you want all the exhaust. It's like what every journalist says, but it's true, because then you can like comfortably daily drive it, but then also have a little bit of fun. Now, this is the Civic Type R's camera. Pretty good, not great. That's just, it seems like that's just the Japanese automakers. They don't do great cameras. Infotainment system's pretty good, actually. I've lived with this infotainment system a couple times. I had the Civic, like the loaded up Touring, and then I had the SI as well, and overall I like it. And I also had the new Integra, which kind of different system. But anyways, you guys can see responds really well to touch, and it's cool that you have like that specific like stuff with the Civic Type R for the performance. I think that's pretty cool. So you can go over all the performance metrics. So those of you that are like performance nerds, I think you'll absolutely love it. Now, the thing I will note is I've had vehicles with performance pages like this, and the reason I say performance pages because it's a Chrysler product. I never used them, basically. Anyways, Toyota backup camera, also kind of crappy. Let's be honest here. I just, like, the resolution's not the best, but, you know, gets the job done, I guess. Now, with the infotainment system, I mean, it almost looks identical. Like, look at, like, even the volume control is in the same exact place. So, you know, it responds really well. So, like, I couldn't pick one or the other. I love Honda's Mega Vent. That's what I like to call it. And then notice, of course, you got your Type R badge right there. Now, Honda says they're trying to make the Type R more limited than before, and they're definitely doing that. I mean, most Honda dealers only got one for the production, so, yeah. And then notice you got the dual zone climate there, so that's another nice luxury feature to have. And then you guys can see wireless phone charging pad. And something I want to mention is there is a price difference between these cars while I'm going over this. Notice like the drive mode select and everything. So with the Type R, it's like $44,000 roughly before market adjustment, and then the Corolla is like $39,000. Now when it comes to shifters, both of them actually have really good shifter feel. Now I prefer the shifter head on the Type R. Now a complaint is in the cold, the shifter will get cold, and in the hot, the shifter will get hot, right? Because, you know, it's more of a metallic shifter. So that's the only downside, but I love the feel of it. The gates feel amazing with the shifter. Definitely like one of the best shifters at the price point, or just one of the best shifters period in a car. Like really good clutch feel, shifter feel, all of it is fantastic. And that's something that Honda spent a lot of time on. And steering feel, like everything with the Type R feels really like just, it feels like they spent a lot of time just making it so that it's very engaging. And then you got more of that like cloth trim there with the stitching for the center console. Pretty normal glove box. And then you got a manual dimmer there for the mirror. I filmed this review at night, which sucks. Hopefully I get another Civic Type R review soon. But anyways, popping over to the GR, you guys can see here, we have a single zone climate. Again, this isn't loaded up version. The loaded up version would be closer in price to the Civic Type R. But would also come with, you know, like the performance stuff the Civic Type R's comes with standard, because like the limited slip differential on this, for example, is optional equipment on this particular car. Now it's the heated seats, you got the drive mode select. Again, I feel like this, it has like a lot of the same stuff as the Civic Type R, just doesn't look quite as cool. And that goes to the shifter. The shifter, frankly, feels pretty much as good as the Civic Type R, like super notchy into the gates. Clutch feels also really good with the GR Corolla as well. And then the steering is actually super light, which is interesting. That was something that I found pretty interesting. But regardless, Toyota nailed it. I just don't like how the shifter feels. It's got like some like leather trim and the plastic on the top, and it just doesn't feel as premium as the Civic Type R. And that's kind of like the big thing with this comparison is it seems like Toyota nailed all the performance stuff and the feel of a lot of items, but then the Civic Type R just feels slightly more premium. And I mean, I guess it makes sense because with this comparison, this particular Civic Type R is more expensive, but I mean, you don't really get a more premium. I mean, you get some premium options in the loaded up Corolla, GR Corolla, but it's not that much more. And so I think that's something to consider. And this is pretty cool. Look at the startup animation there. I think Toyota did a good job with that, by the way. That's cool. But notice that you can change where the power goes with this all-wheel drive system, which is really cool. So you can make it so it's more rear biased, or you can make it so that it's basically more front biased, depending on what you're doing. So notice that when I change the mode there, you can see it says like GR track right there, 60/40, and then you got like 30/70 with the split. So you can make it more front biased or more rear biased depending on, you know, what driving dynamics you have. So I guess you can go from like Ford Focus RS driving dynamics to Civic Type R driving dynamics with this car, which is kind of cool. Obviously the Ford Focus RS had a similar system, but it always felt like more rear wheel drive based with how that car drove. I owned one, that's why I'm saying that. But you guys can see practical stuff going over. So when it comes down to it, if I was offered either car, I would say yes, because both of them are really cool. But if for some reason, somehow I was offered both cars at the same time and I was able to get MSRP, I personally, this is just my personal take, I would take the Civic Type R over the GR Corolla, but this is because I feel like the Civic Type R is a slightly better daily driver, and that's what I would use it for more often. I think that if it was more like a weekend toy than the GR Corolla. Now, you can still daily drive the GR Corolla, no problem. It's still an all-wheel drive hatchback that's practical, but that's just my take. Let me know which one you guys would pick, but it's super close. And like I said, if both of them are offered to, like if one was offered or the other was offered, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to take it. I would take either one. They're so cool.